I took it off. Please, she cried. The human froze in shock, then made his desperate move. The elevator stopped with a hydraulic sigh on level 43 of Verdant Arcade. The corridor lights adjusted automatically as Kai Murren stepped out, soft green panels humming to life along the curved ceiling. The floor was made of glass tiles with thin moss veins running beneath, a design meant to give the illusion of nature in a city where real soil hadn't existed in decades. It was quiet here, controlled, the kind of quiet Kai had paid extra for. He carried a crate against his hip, full in seed coffee, Larn fruit tonic, and mineral extracts from his micro tea stall down in the market. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and ozone, a reminder that everything in Ironthar Spire was filtered, regulated, and measured. His stall was one of the few that still served anything by hand instead of dispenser. It had earned him steady customers and a reputation as the quiet human who kept his head down. Kai liked it that way. After 10 years as an orbital search and rescue pilot, silence was a form of recovery. No emergencies, no distress calls, just steam, metal cups, and the rhythm of boiling water. That was his mission now, living small, staying unnoticed, earning enough to pay rent, and keep the humidifiers running in his small apartment above the arcade. He reached his door and scanned his wrist tag. The lock blinked green. The door slid open with a soft chime. Inside, movement. Kai froze. Someone was in his apartment. His senses narrowed instantly, his breathing controlled by habit. He heard a faint rattle, a glass bottle touching metal. His hand shifted instinctively toward the side wall where an emergency rod was clipped, but he stopped himself before grabbing it. Whoever it was wasn't trained. The sounds were clumsy, fast. He stepped inside, eyes adjusting to the dim light. The hum of the air filters mixed with the faint hiss of steam from his brewing system. Then he saw her. A woman, no, not human. She stood by the cupboard, one hand still inside it, the other holding a half-empty bottle of Karen root extract. Her skin was a soft green tone, faintly translucent under the white lighting, like the color of shallow water. Long yellow hair stuck to her shoulders, damp from sweat or mist. Her clothes were torn and loose, a short, salt-stained skirt tied unevenly at the hip, and a thin storm veil shawl hanging off one arm. Her bare feet left faint wet prints on the tile. She froze when she saw him. The bottle slipped from her hand and clinked against the counter, rolling in a slow circle before stopping. She looked at him with wide eyes, chest rising fast. There was no aggression in her stance, just pure fear. Kai stayed still. "Don't move," he said quietly. His tone was calm, measured, steady, but his pulse was climbing. The woman's gaze darted to the door behind him, to the window, then back to him. She seemed to decide something. In one quick, desperate motion, she pulled the shawl from her shoulders and let it fall to the floor. "I took it off," she said in a shaking voice. "Please." Kai didn't move. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sound of his own breathing filled his ears. Then the realization hit him. She wasn't attacking. She thought she was bargaining. He exhaled once through his nose, slow and steady. "That's not necessary," he said. Her lips parted, confused, like she hadn't expected that answer. Kai set the crate down quietly. The door was still open behind him, light from the corridor spilling in. He knew what that meant. Hallway sensors were recording. The building's network had already flagged movement near his door. If any neighbor glanced at their feed, they'd see two figures inside his room, a human man and a half-dressed alien woman. That alone could destroy his permit to run a stall. He stepped forward carefully, raising both hands. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "Just put the bottle down." She didn't. Her knuckles whitened around it, trembling. He took off his work coat, dark and heavy, and extended it toward her. "Take this," he said. "Cover yourself. Please." Her eyes flicked from his face to the coat and back again, trying to read his intentions. Slowly, she reached out and took it, clutching it against her chest like a shield. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Nyari," she said. Her voice had a slight rasp to it, dry throat, dehydration, maybe salt imbalance. He'd treated that kind of thing before, years ago, when he pulled refugees from collapsed orbit stations. Nyari, he repeated. You're Lasari, right? Her eyes widened. You know my kind? I used to fly a rescue, he said. We had some of your people on board once. They need high humidity. You're probably burning out right now. Her jaw clenched. She looked away, ashamed. I ran out of brine light tablets, she said quietly. 2 days ago. Kai walked to the counter and opened a drawer. He took out a paper roll of tablets and a small sealed file. Drink this, he said. She didn't move. Not poison, he added. Just minerals. Finally, she reached for it with unsteady fingers. She opened the file, took a cautious sip, then another. Her breathing slowed. Some color returned to her cheeks. Why here? Kai asked. I tried the lower decks, she said, voice shaking. No one would let me in. They said I smelled like rust. I thought, maybe if I brought something to trade. She glanced at the Karen root bottle, then back at him. Her face twisted with shame. Kai leaned against the counter, folding his arms. You were desperate, he said. I get it, but this floor isn't safe for someone like you. People up here call the forum before they call security. They like a good story. He nodded toward the door. Half the corridor probably knows already. Her breathing quickened again. They'll call the patrol? Not yet, he said. But the longer you stand there, the more it looks like you're here for the wrong reason. Her hands gripped the coat tighter. Then I'll go. He shook his head. You'll collapse before you reach the lift. Sit down. I'll dim the lights. She hesitated, but her legs gave out before she could argue. She sat on the edge of a small bench. He turned down the overhead glow to a warm amber tone and adjusted the humidifier controls until steam began curling gently through the air. For the first time, she stopped shaking. Kai took a seat across from her, watching the way her shoulders lowered with each breath. She looked exhausted, eyes hollow, lips cracked, muscles tight from dehydration. She had probably gone days without proper air or water. He rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the tension settle in. This wasn't how he wanted to spend his night. He just wanted to rest, maybe read, sleep for a few hours before opening the stall again. But there was no leaving her like this. He thought about calling a Lasari community shelter, then dismissed it. They were slow to respond, and the moment her name went into the system, the building's moderators would see it. She'd be dragged through a dozen public threads before morning. He made a decision. You can stay here tonight, he said. Her eyes shot up. Why? Because you're about to pass out, and I don't like watching people die in front of me, he said plainly. She swallowed hard. You don't even know me. Then let's start there, he said. What were you before this? Her expression flickered with something, hurt, maybe pride. A courier, before the blockade. My crew didn't make it out. He nodded once. Then you keep moving because you don't know how to stop. That hit closer than she expected. She looked away, silent. Kai pushed a ration pack across the counter. Eat. Slowly. He stood, walked to the door, and looked out the small panel window. No patrol yet, but 2 residents were talking near the lift, glancing his way. The whispers were starting. He shut the door again, locked it. The air inside was warmer now, thick with humidity. Nyari's skin glowed faintly as the moisture seeped in, freckles along her neck brightening like small biolights. Her body relaxed little by little, exhaustion winning over fear. Kai sat again, keeping a respectful distance. He didn't look at her directly, just kept his tone steady. You'll be fine here, he said. In the morning, we'll figure out what's next. Her voice was soft when she answered. You could have thrown me out. I've done worse things in my life, he said. Helping you doesn't make the list. She studied him for a long moment, then whispered, thank you. He nodded once, standing to adjust the humidifier again. He told himself this was temporary. Help her recover, send her on her way. But the small part of him that had never turned off the rescue instinct knew it wouldn't be that simple. Outside, the corridor lights dimmed for night cycle. Inside, the only sound was the quiet hum of the air system and 2 steady breaths slowly falling into rhythm. Morning light seeped through the thin glass panels of Kai's apartment, filtered green from the algae-coated windows outside. The hum of the humidifier filled the silence like a heartbeat. Kai sat at his counter, elbows resting on his knees, watching the woman across the room breathe. She was still asleep, curled under his coat on the small bench by the wall, her skin glistening faintly in the moist air. He hadn't meant to stay up all night, but his body refused to rest. Every few minutes, he found his eyes drifting back to her. The Lasari woman, Nyari, she'd said, looked less like the frightened intruder who had ripped through his cupboards and more like someone who hadn't been given a safe place to close her eyes in weeks. Her breathing was even now. The freckles along her neck dimmed and brightened with each breath, a natural rhythm he hadn't seen in years. Kai leaned back against the counter, exhaling. The questions had built up in his head all night. Who was she really? Where did she come from? Why risk stealing medicine in a district like this, where one wrong glance from neighbor could ruin you? But every answer pointed to the same truth. She was desperate, and he couldn't bring himself to turn that into a crime. He rubbed his face, forcing his thoughts to slow. The building feed would already have notifications about last night. Neighbors on the upper tiers loved to gossip, especially when humans and aliens mixed under the same roof. He could almost see it. Unregistered visitor, possible theft, unauthorized interaction. None of it illegal, but all of it enough to draw attention. Attention was the one thing he'd built his new life to avoid. The kettle clicked softly. He poured a measured stream of Fullen seed coffee into a cup, the scent sharp and earthy. He took one sip, then another. The taste helped him think. He needed a plan before she woke up. She stirred. A faint groan left her throat. Then her eyes opened, still unfocused. She blinked toward the light, then looked at him. For a second, she looked ready to panic again, but recognition settled her features. She tightened the coat around her shoulders. "You didn't report me," she said quietly. "I said I wouldn't," he replied. Her eyes scanned the room. Small, neat, efficient. The glass walls framed the ocean far below. She seemed to take in the quiet, the safety, the fact that she wasn't in a cell or the street. "You stayed awake," she said. "Old habit," he answered. "Pilots learn to run on little sleep." Her gaze lingered on the faded patch on his arm, the insignia from his time in orbital rescue. "You used to fly?" "Used to," he said. "Not anymore." "Why'd you stop?" He hesitated. "Too many dead channels. Too many voices we couldn't reach in time." She nodded slowly, understanding in a way only someone who had lost too much could. "You came here to forget." He gave a short, humorless smile. Something like that. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was cautious, like both were trying to learn the other's breathing pattern before speaking again. Nyari finally sat up. The coat slid slightly down her shoulder, and she pulled it back up, self-conscious. Her skin shimmered faintly under the morning light, the green hue deepening to an emerald tone. "I'll leave soon," she said. "You don't need to worry. I won't bring you trouble." Kai set the cup down. "Leaving doesn't fix much if you collapse again 2 blocks away." She frowned. "You don't even know me." "Maybe not," he said, "but I know dehydration when I see it. And I know you weren't lying about the tablets." Nyari's jaw tensed. "Most humans assume we steal for pleasure." "I've met worse assumptions," he said. "You were hungry and sick, not dangerous." She studied him for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then her voice softened. "Why do you care?" Kai hesitated. He didn't like that question because he didn't have an answer that made sense. "Because someone should," he said finally, "and no one else did." Nyari looked down at the code in her lap. "Where I'm from, humans don't help us," she murmured. "They use us for trade work. Heavy lifting, water filtration, cleaning reactors. We sweat salt, so they think we're machines, not people." He felt the anger flicker somewhere under his ribs. He didn't show it, but his voice lost its even tone. "That's not how it's supposed to be." Her eyes flicked up. "Then why is it?" He didn't answer. He just turned back to the counter and started preparing food. He opened a sealed ration tin, poured it into a small skillet, and heated it over the induction plate. The scent of warmed orange starch and Kirill honey filled the air. He placed the plate in front of her alongside a small cup of water. "Eat. It's not much, but it'll settle your body's salts." She stared at the food like she didn't trust it, then picked up a piece with careful fingers. The first bite made her pause. Her expression flickered, confusion giving way to hunger. She ate faster after that. "Slow down," Kai said quietly. "I haven't eaten in 2 days," she said, not looking up. He nodded, said nothing more, and started cleaning the counter. When she finished, she sat quietly, fingers still curled around the cup. "If I stay," she said, "will your neighbors report you?" "They already might have," he replied. "But it doesn't matter. I'll deal with it." She looked at him sharply. "Why risk that for me?" "Because it's not risk," he said. "It's a choice." The words caught her off guard. She studied him, eyes narrowing like she was trying to see the lie. But she didn't find one. The silence stretched. Outside, faint footsteps passed in the hall. Both of them froze. Kai glanced toward the door, then motioned for her to stay quiet. The steps stopped for a moment right outside his door. A faint mechanical chime followed. A neighbor leaving a delivery package, nothing more. Still, he waited until the corridor fell silent again. Nyari exhaled, tension easing from her shoulders. "You live in fear of your neighbors," she said quietly. "Everyone does here," he answered. "They don't need guns or laws. Just a camera feed." She frowned. "That's worse." "Yeah," he said. "That's why I keep to myself." She looked at him again, this time differently. "You don't look like a man who hides." He smirked faintly. "I used to run toward danger. Now I just run a tea stall." Her lips twitched, almost smiling. "That's not so bad. It's quieter," he said. "And I've had enough noise for a lifetime." For the first time since she'd arrived, the air between them felt lighter. The panic had drained out of her eyes, replaced by something closer to curiosity. She leaned back against the wall, her head tilting slightly. "You should open a Lasari blend," she said. "Something salty. We'd actually drink it." He raised an eyebrow. "A salt drink. It's good for us," she said, half laughing. "You humans think it's strange, but it's how we taste the ocean." He considered that. "Maybe I'll try it." "You'd have to let me help," she added. "You don't know our ratios." He looked at her, studying the confidence that had suddenly replaced her fear. "You offering to work for breakfast?" "I'm offering to pay you back," she said. Kai's mouth curved in the faintest hint of a smile. "Deal." She smiled back, small, cautious, but real. For the first time since she'd broken into his apartment, Kai saw her not as an intruder, but as a person. And somewhere deep down, he felt the first quiet pull of something he hadn't expected. The urge to protect her, not because she needed it, but because he wanted to. Outside, the sun rose higher, its light spilling through the green-tinted glass and across the room. Inside, Kai set down his cup and said, "Let's start by keeping you off the feeds. If anyone asks, you're my guest." Nyari blinked, the word hanging between them. "Guest," she repeated softly, as if testing how it felt. He nodded. "That's right. And guests don't sneak out the back door." She smiled again, more certain this time. The morning light caught her hair, turning the yellow strands into threads of gold. For the first time in months, Kai didn't feel the emptiness that usually came after a long night. Something had shifted. He didn't know yet what it meant, but he knew he wasn't sending her away. The day moved slow on Verdant Arcade. Morning haze drifted through the glass corridors, catching the green light from the panels overhead. Kai stood behind his small tea stall, checking his machines and supplies. He'd opened the shutters earlier than usual, hoping to act like everything was normal. The kettle hissed softly, the comforting rhythm that kept him grounded. But it wasn't a normal day. Inside the back section of the stall, behind the privacy screen, Nyari sat on a low stool, adjusting the knot of her borrowed coat. She had insisted on helping him open the stall, and though Kai had refused twice, she kept showing up beside him anyway, her energy slowly returning. Customers trickled in, workers in gray coats, data clerks with tired eyes, a few maintenance drones humming by. No one looked twice at him, but he could feel eyes lingering. The forum feed from last night hadn't completely died. He caught a flicker of it on one customer's wrist display. Alien woman seen entering vendor's apartment, possible theft. The post had a handful of comments before the moderators flagged it for unverified content. Still, whispers spread faster than any truth could. He poured a cup of Ferlin seed brew for a regular, smiled faintly, and waited until the man left before turning back to Nyari. She was inspecting the small grinder on the counter, her curiosity open and childlike. "You ever used one of these?" he asked. She shook her head. "We crush seeds by hand. The sound tells us when it's done." He lifted the grinder lid and poured a handful of seeds inside. "Here, you can try." Nyari hesitated, then stepped closer. The coat hung loose around her, the sleeves too long for her thin arms. She brushed her yellow hair back and placed her palms on the handle. As she turned it, her body leaned slightly forward, focus etched in every small motion. The hum of grinding filled the air, low and steady. Kai watched her. He didn't say anything, but the sight of her, alive, focused, no longer terrified, gave him something close to relief. She caught him watching. Am I doing it wrong? He shook his head. No, just slower. You're crushing too fine. It'll taste bitter. She adjusted her pressure, mimicking his earlier rhythm from memory. It worked. The seeds broke clean, releasing a warm, earthy smell. She smiled faintly. When the first customer after that came up, a young woman holding a work badge, Nyari froze. Kai saw it instantly, the tension returning to her shoulders, her hand gripping the edge of the counter. He stepped in smoothly, speaking to the customer without missing a beat. Morning. Same blend? Yeah, the woman said, glancing briefly at Nyari. New helper? Temporary, Kai replied casually. Lisari blends better than I do. The woman smiled politely, took her drink, and left. When she was gone, Nyari exhaled. You didn't have to say that, she murmured. I know, Kai said, pouring the next cup. But it helps the story. What story? The one where you belong here, he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment, unsure whether to thank him or argue. Instead, she went back to grinding seeds. By midday, the stall smelled of coffee and honey. Customers came and went. The air was thick with the hum of machinery and low conversation. Nyari stayed mostly silent, learning by watching. But occasionally, she'd ask small questions that told him she wasn't used to being treated as part of anything. Why do humans drink this much caffeine? She asked at one point. It keeps them awake, Kai said. For what? For worrying, he said with a dry grin. She blinked, then let out a quiet laugh. It was the first time he'd heard her laugh. It was short, breathy, but real. Around the second hour, Kai caught movement on the far end of the arcade. Two uniformed building moderators walking the corridor. Not patrol, just district staff. But their presence made his jaw tighten. He leaned slightly to block Nyari's view. Stay behind the counter, he said under his breath. She looked confused, but obeyed. The moderators stopped 2 stalls away, checking a tablet. One of them looked up, scanning the vendors. Kai's stall was in their line of sight. He picked up a cloth and wiped the counter slowly, pretending not to notice. Nyari's fingers dug into the hem of his coat. Did someone report me? She whispered. Not sure, he said. Don't move. The moderators walked closer, stopping to talk with a nearby vendor. They didn't look his way again. After a moment, they moved on. Kai kept his focus on his hands, folding a napkin, adjusting a display, cup, every motion deliberate. He didn't breathe normally again until they disappeared around the corner. When he turned, Nyari was watching him closely. You look calm, she said. Training, he said. Never show fear when someone's looking for it. That's a strange thing to live by. It works, he replied. She tilted her head slightly, studying him. You've done dangerous things before, haven't you? He met her eyes briefly. Rescue missions, lost ships, collapsed orbit platforms. Most of them ended badly. And now you make tea, she said softly. He nodded once. Something quieter. Nyari looked down. Maybe you still rescue people. Just differently now. He didn't answer, but something in his chest tightened at the thought. As the afternoon faded, customers slowed. The stall lights dimmed automatically to match the natural cycle. Nyari wiped the counter clean, her movements more confident now. Kai leaned on the counter beside her. You did well today. I spilled 2 cups, she said. You also kept 7 from overflowing, he said. That's better odds than most first days. She smiled, but then her expression changed, more serious. Kai, what happens if someone from the housing board sees me here? They won't, he said. But if they do, then they'll find a guest working with me, he said simply. Her voice dropped lower. You keep saying that word. Guest. You mean it. Every time. Something in her face softened at that. She turned to the counter, tracing a finger through the steam residue left by the kettle. I haven't been anyone's guest in years. Then start getting used to it, he said. A short silence passed, comfortable this time. As he cleaned up, She took the leftover seeds and arranged them neatly into small containers. Her hands moved carefully, precisely. The discipline impressed him. When they finished, he locked the stall shutters and started back toward the service bridge. Nyari followed quietly, clutching the coat tighter. Halfway across the bridge, the city lights came alive below them, a sea of green reflections on the ocean's surface. Nyari stopped walking, staring through the glass floor. "You live above all this," she said softly, "and you still look lonely." Kai glanced down at her. "You see a lot for someone who just got here. It's easier to see when you have nothing else left to lose," she said. He looked at her for a moment longer, then kept walking. "You've still got something left," he said. "You're standing." She followed him silently back to the apartment. When they stepped inside, Kai adjusted the humidifier again, raising the moisture level to match her species' range. Nyari stopped by the small window, watching the rain mist beyond the glass. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked quietly. He shrugged. "Maybe I don't like seeing people destroyed by rules that make no sense." Her eyes met his. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." She studied him for a long time before finally nodding. "Then I'll help you make that salt drink tomorrow," she said. "If you'll let me." He gave a small, tired smile. "We'll call it even." "Not even," she said softly. "Just the beginning." Kai looked at her then, really looked, and realized she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was starting to reclaim something she'd lost before she ever came to his door. And for the first time in years, he felt something in himself begin to thaw. The next morning began with the sound of rain against the glass. On Verdant Arcade, rain wasn't natural. It was condensation runoff from the cooling towers above, but it still sounded like weather. Kai stood by the counter, rinsing the teaware, while Nyari leaned near the window, watching streaks of water slide down the panels. The humidifier hummed beside her, releasing steady mist into the air. Her breathing had changed. It was slower now, deeper, like her body had finally adjusted to the atmosphere. Kai handed her a cup of warm, Froland seed coffee. "Here, try this blend before we open." Nyari accepted it carefully, sniffing the drink first. "Smells too strong," she said. "It's supposed to," he replied. "Keeps you awake." She took a sip, grimaced, then laughed softly. "You humans drink this willingly?" He smirked. "It grows on you." The moment lingered, quiet and strangely domestic. It didn't fit the chaos of how they'd met. It almost felt normal, two people sharing a morning before work. As Kai adjusted the stall's remote settings, Nyari set down her cup. "You said something last night," she began, her tone cautious. "That you don't like rules that destroy people." "What did you mean?" He paused mid-motion, not expecting the question. "You remember that? Everything you say sounds like you mean more than you say," she replied. Kai looked at her, unsure whether to deflect or tell the truth. After the war, he said finally, the Federation made new housing laws. Every mixed species contact had to be reported for safety. The idea was to prevent black market trafficking, but all it did was isolate the people they said they were protecting. So, I left service. I didn't want to enforce rules that punish survival. Nyari studied him. "And now you live quietly, pretending those laws don't exist." "I follow the ones that make sense," he said, voice even. "The rest I ignore." She gave a faint, sad smile. "You're either very brave or very stupid. Probably both." That earned him a short laugh, but her gaze softened. "You could have called the patrol that night. Instead, you risked being flagged yourself." He shrugged. "Old instincts. I was trained to pull people out of wrecks." "You looked like one." Her eyes glimmered with something, gratitude or embarrassment, maybe both. She turned back to the window. "You don't know what it's like being watched every second. The moment I walk into a public corridor, everyone assumes I belong to someone. The only way to be invisible is to act ashamed." Kai set down the tool he was holding. "You don't have to act that way here." "I know," she said, "but habits are heavy." He didn't answer. The truth was he understood that weight more than he wanted to admit. When they arrived at the stall that morning, the air was thick with the smell of rain and steam. The crowd was already forming. Workers on their way to shifts, students, clerks. Nyari kept her head low as they set up, adjusting the displays. Kai noticed she moved differently now, less defensive, more deliberate. Remember what I said about salt blends? She asked, opening a pouch of crushed mineral flakes she'd brought from his storage. He nodded. You really want to try this idea? She smiled slightly. You promised I could help. They began working side by side. Nyari mixed small amounts of crushed salt with the Frolen seed brew, adjusting the ratio each time. The smell changed subtly, less bitter, more balanced. Kai tasted each test cup carefully, giving short nods. Too strong, he said after the first. Too sweet, she countered after the second. They worked until the third batch came out right. The flavor was deep, smooth, and slightly briny, the kind of drink that left a clean finish on the tongue. That's it, he said. That's the one. Nyari smiled proudly. Then name it. Kai thought for a moment, then said, Brine Song Latte. Her expression softened. It sounds like home. He wrote it into the stall's display menu, then set the first cup out for sale. By midday, word spread fast. The new drink drew attention. Curious customers murmured approval and a few surprise compliments. Nyari took over mixing while Kai managed the cups. Her movements were graceful, focused. He caught people watching her, curious, unsure whether she was a worker or a partner. It didn't matter. For the first time, she didn't seem to care. Still, Kai noticed the occasional glance from a corner, a lens lingering too long. He could feel the weight of attention building again. Ironthar Spire had no overt enforcers, but its gossip network was worse than any patrol. When the rush slowed, Nyari leaned close. Someone's recording us, she whispered. Kai followed her gaze. A man across the walkway was holding a wrist console angled toward them. The faint glint of a live feed confirmed it. Kai stepped around the counter, walked directly up to the man, and spoke evenly. Do you need something? The man blinked, caught off guard. Just curious. Didn't mean anything by it. Then you won't mind deleting the feed, Kai said. His tone wasn't threatening, just absolute. The man hesitated, then swiped the console. Done. Kai nodded once, turned, and went back to the stall. Nyari looked at him when he returned. You didn't yell. Never need to, he said. People listen better when you don't give them noise. Her lips curved into a faint smile. That's how you lead, isn't it? Quietly. He poured another drink. I'm not leading anyone. You are, she said softly, even if you don't want to. The words hit him deeper than he expected. As the day ended, they cleaned the counter together. Nyari hummed a faint melody while she worked, a low, rhythmic tone that reminded him of waves. That's from your world? He asked. She nodded. We used to hum during storms to calm ourselves. Lissari cities were built near the tides. You could hear the ocean in every wall. Kai paused, watching her hands move. Do you miss it? Every second, she said quietly. But I stopped hoping to go back a long time ago. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. They closed the stall late, walking back through the corridor lights. Nyari carried a small case of leftover tonics. The air smelled faintly of mineral steam. At the apartment door, Kai scanned his wrist tag and held it open for her. She stopped in the doorway, hesitant. If you let me stay, the feed will notice a second occupant. It'll log it. I'll adjust the logs, he said. They'll think it's equipment storage. She frowned. You've done this before? No, he said, but I'm good at solving small problems before they grow big. She hesitated again, then stepped inside. The lights came on automatically, bathing the room in soft gold. She set the tonics on the counter, then turned toward him. Ka, if they find out, it's not just a fine. They'll revoke your vendor license. I know, he said, but if you leave, it'll kill you. That's not a trade I'm willing to make. She stared at him for a long moment, trying to read his face. You don't even know what you're getting into, she said finally. He met her eyes. Maybe not, but I know what I'm doing. She looked down, breath unsteady. Humans don't do this. Not for us. I'm not most humans, he said. The air between them thickened with silence. Nyari's freckles glowed faintly in the lamplight, her eyes shimmering green. Slowly, she stepped closer. Then maybe I was wrong about your kind. Kai didn't move. His heart beat faster, but his body stayed still, controlled, steady. Get some rest, he said, voice lower now. Tomorrow's another long day. She hesitated, searching his face one last time, then nodded. Good night, Kai. He watched her walk toward the bench, wrap herself again in his coat, and lie down. The humidifier's quiet hum filled the room. He leaned back against the wall, eyes on the rain sliding down the glass. He told himself he was just protecting someone in need. But deep down, he knew something had changed. What started as rescue was no longer duty, it was choice. And choices like that never stayed small. The following morning came slower, heavier, and quieter than usual. The rain had stopped, leaving behind a thin layer of mist that clung to the outer glass of Irenthar's spire. Kai stood shirtless at the sink, washing the used cups from the night before. His reflection in the glass caught his attention. Unshaven, eyes shadowed, face tired but calm. He had the look of a man who'd seen too much and still refused to stop caring. Behind him, Nyari moved softly. The hiss of the humidifier followed her. She had woken before him this time, adjusting the air cycle herself. The coat she'd borrowed was tied neatly around her waist, her skin brighter today, color returning. Her hair was loose, yellow strands falling down her shoulders as she tried to braid them back with shaking fingers. She stopped when she noticed his eyes on her. "What?" she asked. "Nothing," he said, drying a cup. "You're just standing straighter." "Maybe I finally slept," she said, giving a faint, teasing look. "Your apartment doesn't leak light all night." He smirked. "And you don't talk in your sleep." "That's new. I don't sleep around people," she replied. "Not usually." He nodded once, not pushing it. The statement carried a weight that didn't need unpacking. They moved through breakfast quietly. He cooked starch cakes with honey. She organized the new jars of minerals. It was becoming a rhythm. She found things to fix. He pretended not to notice how naturally she belonged in his space. As they prepared to leave for the stall, Kai's console flickered on the wall. A message alert blinked. "Building oversight review. Tenant scan scheduled. 1900 hours." He froze for half a second. Then his voice stayed calm. "We might have a visitor tonight." Nyari looked up. "Visitor? Building inspector," he said. "Random scan. They check for fire systems, leaks, and extra residents." The color drained from her face. "They'll find me." "Not if we make sure they don't," he said. She swallowed hard, watching him move toward the equipment locker. He was already pulling out small devices, signal shrouds, old scanner dampeners from his pilot days, a portable humidity stabilizer. "You were military," she said quietly. "Rescue division," he corrected. "Not enforcement. I used to hide survivors from scans long enough to patch their suits." "The tech hasn't changed much." "You still have all this?" she asked. "Couldn't throw it away," he said. "You never know when someone might need saving." He didn't mean it as a confession, but the words hung in the air like one. Nyari watched him work, setting up the dampeners near the ceiling vents. She stepped forward to help, holding a small connector steady as he tightened the seal. Their fingers brushed briefly, skin on skin, electric. She looked up, eyes meeting his. He didn't pull away. "Why are you doing all this for me?" she asked softly. Kai didn't answer right away. He adjusted the connector, tested the seal, then said quietly, "Because I couldn't save everyone before. Maybe I can save one person now." She stared at him, unsure what to say. Then she whispered, "You already did." He looked at her fully then, for the first time without the careful restraint he'd been maintaining. There was no pity in his eyes, just a steady, grounded empathy that made her chest tighten. "We should go," he said finally. "Keep the day normal." They opened the stall early again. The Brinesong latte had spread overnight. People were talking about it across the tier. Some came out of curiosity, others to see the alien who made salt taste like silk. Nyari handled the orders with grace. She laughed once, actually laughed, when a customer complimented her accent. Kai caught the sound and almost smiled himself. But not everyone came with good intentions. Around midday, a local data courier leaned on the counter, voice dripping with condescension. "Didn't know humans were hiring Lissari now. Thought you people preferred the automated kind." Kai's hand froze mid-motion. His tone stayed calm. "You here for a drink or a headline?" The courier smirked. "Just saying, man. Half the floor's betting you're sleeping with her." The stall went quiet. Nyari's back stiffened. Her hands froze around the steamer handle. The insult wasn't new to her. It was the same kind that followed Lasari women everywhere. But hearing it here, in the one place she felt safe, hit differently. Kai turned slowly, wiped his hands on a cloth, and stepped out from behind the counter. He didn't raise his voice. He just stood close enough that the courier had to tilt his chin up. "You got something worth saying?" Kai said quietly. "Say it again." Louder this time. The man's grin faltered. The calm in Kai's voice was worse than shouting. Around them, a few onlookers went still, pretending not to watch. Kai didn't move closer, didn't touch him. He just stood there, steady as iron. The courier's confidence cracked first. He looked away, muttered something about a bad joke, and walked off. When Kai turned back, Nyari was still gripping the steamer handle like a weapon. He placed a hand gently over hers. "It's fine," he said quietly. She looked up, eyes glassy but fierce. "No, it isn't. But thank you." He held her gaze a moment longer. Then he let go and went back to work, as if nothing had happened. But the air between them felt charged, tense, not from fear, but from something closer to shared defiance. That afternoon, a small group gathered near the stall to record a short feed about the brine song latte. It wasn't official, just a trending food channel. Still, Kai made sure the background showed both of them. No shame, no secrecy. When a reporter asked who created the blend, Kai said clearly, "It was her recipe. I just helped make it happen." Nyari's throat tightened at the simple acknowledgement. For once, someone had said her name with pride instead of pity. Later, when the lights dimmed and they closed the stall, she turned to him quietly. "You shouldn't have said that. Now, they'll remember me." "Good," he said. "Then if they ever say your name again, they'll have to say it with respect." She didn't argue. She couldn't. Back at the apartment, the tension of the inspection hung over them. Kai worked late, adjusting the sensor calibration. Nyari sat cross-legged on the floor, watching him in silence. Finally, she said, "You don't sleep much, do you?" He smiled faintly. "Never learned how." She stood, walked over, and placed a small hand on his arm. "You don't have to keep fixing things all the time," she said softly. "You've done enough." He looked at her, really looked, and saw something new. Not fear, not desperation, trust. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "Go rest," he said quietly. She nodded but didn't move. "If they find me tomorrow," she whispered, "I'll go quietly. I don't want you to lose this." He shook his head. "If they find you, I'll make sure they look somewhere else." She stared at him, the words sinking in. "You'd risk everything?" Kai met her eyes. "I already decided that the night you walked in." For a long moment, they stood close, silent except for the hum of the humidifier. Then Nyari whispered, almost trembling, "You don't even know what I want from you." He replied, steady and calm, "You don't owe me anything. That's the point." She exhaled, stepping back, but her eyes lingered on his. She didn't thank him this time. She just looked at him as if memorizing the way he stood, the quiet strength in him, the steadiness that made her believe she was safe. Outside, the spire's lights dimmed to night cycle. Inside, the room felt smaller, warmer, alive. The inspection would come soon, and danger would follow if they were careless. But for that night, the threat faded beneath something heavier, quieter, and far more human. Neither of them said it out loud, but both knew what started as survival was slowly becoming something else, something that neither the law nor fear could stop. Evening settled slowly over Verdant Arcade, the kind of stillness that felt like a warning. The rain had returned, light but steady, tapping against the outer glass like a soft alarm. Inside the small apartment, the humidifier whispered its rhythmic hiss while Kai worked at the console, checking the security system one last time. The tenant inspection would happen within the hour. Nyari sat at the edge of the small bench, dressed in a simple wrap made from one of Kai's old linen sheets. The fabric clung softly to her skin, faintly damp from the humidity. She looked calmer than the night before, but her fingers betrayed her, nervous, twisting the fabric at her waist over and over. "Tell me again," she said quietly. "What happens when they scan?" Kai didn't look up. "They'll do a thermal sweep of every unit. Temperature, air density, and living mass. They're looking for excess readings, extra people, unauthorized heat sources, old equipment. They don't actually come inside unless something pings. And if it pings? Then I talk fast, he said flatly. Her throat tightened. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be, he said, glancing back with a faint smirk. She shot him a look, half irritation, half fear. You think you can joke right now? I think we'll do better if you breathe, he said. Panic changes heat signatures. That shut her up, but she didn't stop twisting the fabric. Kai stood, wiped his hands on a towel, and crossed the room to her. The air smelled faintly of minerals and soap. He crouched to her level, eyes steady, voice low. You're going to sit on the far side of that vent, behind a humidifier. It emits a constant heat pattern, same as a full-body thermal shadow. The dampeners will blur your trace. Don't move or speak while the skin runs. It'll be over in 30 seconds. Nyari nodded, eyes wide, still unsure. You've done this before. He paused. Something like it. Back when I had to hide pilots from bounty scans. Same principle. That answer only raised more questions, but she didn't ask. She could see in his eyes that whatever happened back then wasn't something he wanted to relive. Outside, a soft chime echoed through the hallway. 3 notes. The building's official pre-scan alert. Kai exhaled. That's our cue. He helped her move behind the humidifier, pulling a thin privacy screen into place. She crouched low, the mist wrapping around her like a faint veil. Her skin glowed under it, faint green light pulsing where the droplets touched. Kai forced his attention back to the console. The scanner's feed activated in the corner of his display, a shifting wireframe of his apartment, pulsing with red heat markers. His own body glowed bright. The humidifier's shadow masked the rest of the room. A voice crackled from the system's comm channel. Tenant Murrin, level 43, you're up. Confirming visual. Kai straightened, eyes on the camera. Confirmed. All systems operational. The voice paused. Humidity levels are higher than standard. Reason. Experimental brewing setup, Kai said calmly. Moisture stabilizes the blend. Noted, the voice replied. Proceeding with sweep. The scan began. A soft hum vibrated through the floor. Red lines flickered across the glass walls, scanning the apartment's interior. Behind a humidifier, Nyari barely breathed. The steam coiled around her, warm and close. The sound of the scan moved through her bones, a low, buzzing rhythm. For a moment, she thought of the tide storms back home, when they'd hide under metal roofs and count the seconds between thunder. This felt the same. Then she saw Kai's reflection in the glass, still calm, hands clasped loosely in front of him. His eyes never moved from the console. He looked completely at ease, but she could see the tension in his shoulders. The hum stopped. Silence filled the room. Then, the voice returned. Scan complete. No discrepancies detected. Tenant Murrin, your next audit is in 3 months. Understood, Kai said, keeping his tone neutral. Appreciate the efficiency. The connection cut. He waited a full 10 seconds before moving. Then he exhaled through his teeth, the sound sharp. It's over. Nyari stepped out from behind the humidifier, hair clinging damp to her neck. You weren't afraid, she said quietly. Kai turned to face her. Wasn't I? She blinked, realizing then that his hands were trembling slightly. He hit it well, but the adrenaline had caught up to him. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his wrist. His muscles tightened, then loosened under her hand. You didn't have to risk that for me, she said softly. He looked down at her hand, then back at her face. If I hadn't, what would have happened to you? She didn't answer. They both knew. She'd be dragged into custody, labeled as an illegal vagrant, and vanished into the endless processing system. Kai pulled his hand away gently and sat down on the bench, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm not doing this for gratitude, he said. I just don't like the way this city decides who gets to breathe. Nyari stood still for a moment, watching him. Then, without saying anything, she walked to the counter and picked up one of the clean cups. She filled it halfway with warm water from the kettle and set it in front of him. Then at least drink, she said quietly. He looked at the cup, then at her. The smallest smile crossed his face. You're learning how to take charge. Only because you forget to, she replied, sitting across from him. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. The storm outside faded into a gentle hum, and the humid air shimmered softly between them. After a while, Nyari spoke again, her voice quiet but clear. "When you were in the rescue corps, did you ever save someone who didn't make it?" Kai's gaze lowered. "Plenty. What did you do after that?" He met her eyes. "I stopped pretending it didn't affect me." She looked at him for a long moment. "Then you know what it's like to lose a whole world." He nodded. "That's why I recognized the look in your eyes that night." She swallowed, her throat tight. "You shouldn't carry that weight for me." "Too late," he said. Her lips parted, a flicker of emotion crossing her face. Surprise, then something warmer, deeper. She didn't reply. Instead, she leaned back slightly, watching him with an expression halfway between gratitude and disbelief. When the air grew still again, Kai spoke quietly. "Tomorrow, we go back to the stall like nothing happened. The more normal we act, the faster the feeds forget." Nyari nodded. "And if they don't, then we make them," he said simply. She tilted her head. "You talk like someone planning a war." "I'm just trying to live one day without losing someone," he said. That made her go silent. Later that night, when the lights dimmed for rest cycle, Kai stretched out on the floor mat. Nyari took her usual place on the bench, but didn't lie down. The air between them felt charged, like something unspoken was growing, close but restrained. "You could sleep here," he said suddenly, not looking at her. "The floor's warm enough." She hesitated. "And what would that mean?" He looked over at her. "Whatever you want it to mean." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she slid down from the bench and lay beside him, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough that he could feel the warmth of her skin in the thick, moist air. Neither spoke. The humidifier pulsed gently in the background. Kai stared at the ceiling, exhaustion finally catching him. Nyari turned her head, watching him breathe. There was no fear now, no suspicion, just quiet understanding. When his breathing evened out, she whispered softly, "You can stop running now, human." And for the first time since she'd entered his life, he slept. The following morning broke with a dim green light filtering through the rain-smeared glass. The city outside was silent except for the faint hum of transport lifts gliding along the vertical rails of Iron Thar's spire. The storm had thickened overnight, pressing the mist close against the windows. Inside, Kai woke to the low rhythm of the humidifier and the warmth of another presence beside him. For a brief moment, he didn't move. The air smelled faintly of minerals and the subtle salt fragrance that clung to Nyari's skin. Her breathing was soft, steady. She was lying on her side, half covered by his dark work coat. Her hair, bright yellow even in the dim light, had fallen across his arm sometime in the night. The contact was small, accidental but real. He shifted slightly, careful not to wake her. His mind was clear in that quiet moment. No noise, no alarm, no urgency. Just the strange, fragile calm of two lives balanced between safety and exposure. Then, the calm broke with a soft tone from the wall console. Notification, tenant statement required, oversight follow-up. Kai's muscles tightened instantly. He sat up, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. Nyari stirred beside him, confused. "What is it?" "Administrative follow-up," he said, scanning the message. "They want to confirm something from the inspection. Probably a random check." Her face tensed. "They suspect. Maybe. Maybe not." He exhaled through his nose. "Either way, we handle it the same way, calm and ordinary." She pushed herself upright, wrapping the coat tighter around her. "You talk like nothing scares you." Kai looked at her, then at the console. "Everything scares me. I just don't show it." He deleted the notification from the visible feed and sent a manual status report. Standard readings, minor humidity adjustment, 1 resident. It was risky, but it bought them time. The system flagged it as under review. He shut the console down. "We go to work. We stay visible. The best lie is one everyone sees." Nyari nodded slowly. "You're good at this." "Too good," he muttered. They took the lift to the market level. The arcade was quieter today. Rain always drove people to indoor stalls, and the glass corridors glowed with reflected light from passing vehicles below. The Brinesong Latte banner still hung across their stall, fluttering slightly under the air vents. Kai began the morning prep. Nyari wiped the counters and arranged the jars of Larn peel and mineral flakes. She worked without instruction now, her motions confident, precise. A few regulars stopped by early. One waved, another asked for her by name. Kai noticed the difference immediately. Nyari wasn't hiding anymore. She met customers' eyes, smiled, even teased one man for ordering his drink too weak for a Lasari. The laughter that followed felt genuine, even contagious. It didn't erase the danger, but made the day easier. By late afternoon, a small crowd gathered again. Word had spread about the new drinks, Ocean Taste. Nyari mixed drinks while Kai handled the heat plates, their rhythm seamless now. It looked natural, like they'd worked together for years. Then a voice came from the crowd. "You're the human from the forum, right? The one who took in the alien girl." Kai's hands paused over the counter. He turned slowly. A young man stood there, holding up his wrist display with the thread from last week. The words glowed across it. "Alien thief found in human vendor's home." The air thickened. Nyari froze mid-motion. Kai's jaw tightened. "That post was taken down," he said evenly. "Yeah," the man said, grinning. "But I saved a copy. Didn't expect to find you here serving coffee together." Guessed the rumors were true. Whispers rippled through the nearby customers. The tone wasn't hostile, just hungry. For scandal, for spectacle. Kai moved slowly, deliberately, setting his cup down with precision. "You done talking?" he asked. The man hesitated. "I just think people should know what." "You think too much," Kai said, his voice low but sharp. Something in his tone shut the crowd up. The young man shifted, uneasy now, realizing he'd overplayed his hand. Kai stepped around the counter, not fast, not aggressive, just close enough that his height and calm presence filled the space. "If you want a drink," he said, "you're welcome to stay. If you want gossip, take it outside." The man blinked, muttered something, and backed away. The tension snapped like a wire, and the ambient noise of the market resumed. Kai turned back to Nyari. She was still frozen, knuckles white on the counter. He touched her hand briefly, grounding her. "He's gone," he said softly. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She exhaled slowly, letting the fear drain from her face. "You didn't have to defend me like that." "Yes, I did," he said. "You work here. You belong here." She looked at him, eyes wet but fierce. "You keep saying that, like saying it makes it true." He held her gaze. "It already is." The rest of the evening passed in heavy silence between them, broken only by the hiss of steam and the faint rhythm of cups being placed and lifted. By closing time, the tension had turned into something else, something heavier, unresolved. Back at the apartment, Kai checked the door sensors, locking them twice. Nyari stood by the window again, watching the mist swirl outside. "They'll keep talking," she said quietly. "People like him never stop. They'll find something new in a week," he said. "They always do. But what if they don't?" She turned, voice trembling slightly. "What if they keep following us?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over, standing close but not touching her. The window's faint reflection caught both of them, her bright hair, his dark silhouette beside it. "If they come," he said finally, "they'll see two people working, eating, surviving. That's not a crime." Her eyes lifted to his. "And if they say it is? Then we'll make them remember what mercy looks like," he said. For a moment, she didn't breathe. Then she stepped closer, so close that their reflections merged into one. "You're not supposed to care this much, Kai." "I know," he said, "but I do." The silence stretched between them again, thicker this time, charged. Outside, lightning flashed across the glass, illuminating their faces. Nyari's hand moved, hesitant, uncertain, and rested on his chest. His heart thudded beneath her palm, steady but fast. He didn't pull away. "You could still ask me to leave," she whispered. "I could," he said quietly, "but I won't." Her breath caught, and the faint bioluminescent freckles on her skin brightened, glowing against the dark air. Neither moved for a long time. The world outside blurred into green mist and faint light. Inside, the only sound was the hum of the humidifier and two unsteady heartbeats trying to find the same rhythm. By the time the lights dimmed for night cycle, Nyari had moved closer, her forehead resting against his shoulder. He stood perfectly still, not speaking, just letting her breathe. No promises were made. None were needed. But in that quiet moment, both of them understood something they couldn't yet say aloud. Whatever happened next, they wouldn't face it alone. Morning arrived slowly, thick with mist that turned the glass corridors into a tunnel of pale light. The storm had cleared during the night, leaving only the constant sound of dripping condensation from the spire's upper decks. Inside the apartment, everything felt different. The silence wasn't tense anymore. It was full. Kai was already awake, sitting on the floor beside the counter, fixing a small leak in the humidifier hose. He worked methodically, the way he always did, movements quiet and deliberate. Across the room, Nyari slept on the bench, half covered by his coat again, her breathing steady. The soft bioluminescent freckles along her skin pulsed in a faint rhythm, fading with each breath. He watched her for a long moment before speaking, voice low. Inspection came back clean, he said, almost to himself. System marked us as compliant. Nyari stirred, eyes opening slowly. We're safe. For now, he said. She pushed herself upright, hair messy, skin still glistening slightly from the humid air. You sound like a man who doesn't believe in safe. I don't, he admitted, but I believe in quiet days. That's close enough. She smiled faintly, wrapping the coat tighter around herself. You talk like someone who's always waiting for something to break. Kai gave a quiet laugh under his breath. Experience. He stood, crossing the room to hand her a cup of warm Ferlin brew. She took it, hands brushing his. The touch lingered, neither of them pulling away immediately. They shared breakfast in silence, orange starch cakes and a few leftover mineral tablets dissolved into the water. It was the kind of meal that didn't need words. When they left for the stall, the corridors were calmer. The gossip from the day before had already faded into other topics. 2 stalls down, a vendor called out a greeting, pretending nothing had ever happened. That was how the Spire survived, by forgetting fast. At the stall, Nyari began setting up while Kai adjusted the heat cycles. The morning crowd was light, just a few regulars. One older woman stopped to compliment the new Brine-Song latte. It tastes alive, she said. You can feel it when you breathe. Nyari smiled shyly. It's meant to. Kai watched her speak with people, confident, warm, unafraid. It was a quiet victory, the kind that didn't need to be spoken out loud. As the day went on, the light through the glass brightened. The storm had washed the haze away, revealing the turquoise ocean far below. For the first time, the view looked clear. Nyari leaned over the counter, eyes following the water's reflection. When I was little, she said softly, my people used to say the ocean could hear us. That if we sang long enough, it would answer back. Kai glanced at her. Did it ever? She smiled faintly. Maybe it's answering now, just in a different way. He looked out at the horizon. Maybe. Later that afternoon, a small group gathered near the stall. Not reporters, not officials, just customers curious about the story behind the new drink. Kai let Nyari do the talking. Her voice carried softly through the arcade, telling them about the Lissari tradition of balance, salt and sweetness, air and water. No dramatics, no embellishment, just truth told plainly. When she finished, people clapped quietly, not out of spectacle, but respect. Kai stood beside her, arms crossed, watching her handle the moment. She glanced at him once, her expression saying what neither of them dared to put into words. You gave me this chance. When the crowd thinned, he reached for a cloth and began wiping the counter. You realize, he said, tone casual, we might actually make this work. Nyari raised an eyebrow. You mean the stall? I mean all of it, he said. She smiled, the kind of smile that showed through her eyes more than her mouth. Then what happens next? Kai hesitated. We keep doing what we're good at. You make the world taste better. I'll make sure it doesn't break while you do. She laughed softly. That sounds like a partnership. Sounds like one to me, he said. They stayed open late that night. The last customers left near closing, leaving behind the smell of salt and coffee in the damp air. The market lights dimmed, leaving only the glow from the signage above them. Nyari leaned on the counter, wiping the last of the condensation away. You're quiet, she said. Thinking, he answered. About. He met her eyes. How easily this could have gone differently. She looked down, then back at him. You mean if you hadn't opened the door that night? Yeah. She stepped closer, her voice low. Then I'd be dead. Or worse. He didn't argue. The truth didn't need correcting. She set the rag down, studying him. You could have walked away from me 100 times since then. You didn't. Guess I'm bad at walking away, he said. For a long moment, they just stood there. The humid air shimmered faintly around them, the neon lights reflecting in her eyes. Then she reached up, fingers trembling slightly, and touched the edge of his jaw. Then, don't, she whispered. He didn't. He leaned forward slowly, closing the distance, his forehead resting against hers first. Her breath was warm, her skin faintly glowing under the lights. When he finally kissed her, it wasn't rushed or uncertain. It was deliberate, careful, as if he'd been waiting for the right moment to stop pretending they were just surviving. The sound of rain began again, soft and distant, like the city itself exhaled. When they pulled apart, she didn't step back. She stayed close, smiling faintly. Now you've done it, she murmured. No taking it back. Wouldn't want to, he said. They packed up the stall in silence after that, the kind of silence that feels peaceful, not empty. When they returned home, the city lights reflected off the ocean below, stretching like a ribbon of green fire. Inside the apartment, Kai hung his coat by the door. Nyari walked to the humidifier, adjusting the setting with practiced ease. The air thickened around them, warm and wet, like the first night. But this time, there was no fear. She turned to him, voice soft. Do you ever stop fixing things? He stepped closer, only when they stopped breaking. She laughed quietly, shaking her head, and reached up to touch his hand. Then maybe, finally, you don't have to fix me. He met her gaze. Maybe you fix me instead. For a moment, neither spoke. The city outside glowed with faint green light, and the low hum of the humidifier filled the room like steady breathing. They sat together near the window, watching the distant reflections of the sea. The storm had passed, but the sound of rain lingered, a rhythm that matched the quiet pulse of something new between them. When Yari finally spoke, her voice was calm, almost a whisper. You gave me air when I couldn't breathe. And you gave me a reason to, he replied. She smiled, leaned her head against his shoulder, and whispered one last word before sleep pulled her under. Home. For the first time in years, Kai Murin didn't dream of rescue missions or silence after alarms. He dreamed of steam, salt, and laughter, of a quiet stall on a green-lit deck where a human and a Lissari woman worked side by side, breathing the same air, building a small life in a world that had forgotten how to care. And for once, nothing needed fixing.